Hi everyone, it's nice to be here all the way from Vancouver, or I like to call it Raincouver, where, no word of a lie, it rained 28 days out of 31 days this October. So really excited about seeing sunshine today. Pretty excited about that. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit about advocacy and what we're doing over at Hootsuite, and specifically about the internal and external advocacy programs that we run. So for those of you I haven't had a chance to meet yet, I run the advocacy team at Hootsuite. So my job is essentially to take care of all of our internal and external advocate marketing programs. So that includes our employee advocacy, our ambassador program, our influencer outreach, and our student program. But today I'm going to concentrate specifically on our ambassador program and how we do that both internally and externally with our staff. So we'll get into a little bit about what advocacy is, how you build out an ambassador program, how you build out your internal advocacy, and then how you measure all that and why it matters. So I'm here to help you guys out and make you look good to your bosses when you go back to the office. Before I get started, though, feel free to tweet at Hoot Community today your biggest takeaway from the presentation, because I may have some Hootsuite swag to give away, some pretty sweet swag. So make sure you're tweeting us, and at the end we'll tweet whoever the winner is to let you know what you won. So first up, why advocacy? I really like this quote from Forrester. When I first started getting into the whole world of advocacy, I was wondering, well, how is this different from word-of-mouth marketing? And I quickly discovered that advocacy is really actually putting a proper program in place around that word-of-mouth marketing. So it's putting together resources, putting together budget, and actually building out formal programs around it. And so here are some of the high-level stats that you can take. This is the bread and butter that you want to actually show the value of building out these programs to your bosses. So I'll give you a moment to take pictures for you to bring away. But yeah, these are essentially the things that you want to be presenting to your leadership, to your senior leadership, to let them know, at the end of the day, this is why building out either an ambassador program or some sort of influencer outreach, this is why it's super important, because there are so many great benefits to actually putting a proper program in place around this, because this is powerful. There's so many people who take word of mouth over brand ads any day, and you guys know that. And then over at Hootsuite, we've actually come up with a few more reasons. So these are sort of things that we've learned along the way, but also things that we knew going into it. And at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest takeaways is we've been able to gain a lot of really good insight from a lot of our advocates, especially because we're a software. So for those of you that don't know, Hootsuite is a social media management software, and social media moves super fast. It changes every 5 minutes. So it's really, really important that we have advocates where we have a really great relationship with them, and they can give us feedback on what they need out of the platform. You know, this doesn't do this because now Instagram has changed. I need this functionality. So we go back and we build that. And without that close relationship with our advocates, none of that is able to help move our business forward. And another really good thing that we've discovered was that, as you guys know, you post to your Facebook, you post to your LinkedIn, your Twitter, you're only reaching a certain amount of people. But when you have advocates send that exact same message, we actually found that you're able to reach a much wider audience. Because as you guys know, a lot of social networks now, they favor people sharing things on their personal channels rather than brand channels, rather than businesses. So we've done a lot of testing about this over at Hootsuite, and we actually found we were able to reach more people by having advocates share our messages rather than doing it strictly through our brand channels. So it's important to have that mix of both. And I think at the end of the day, it's really important to remember that a successful advocacy program, no matter what you're building, has to remember that people, they're humans. Anyone that's part of your advocacy program, it's so easy for us in marketing. I know these terms all the time. Raise of hands, how many of you have used these terms to describe people? Personas? Yeah? We've all used them before. And at the end of the day, you have to remember these people are human beings, and they're looking to connect with your brand. They're not just megaphones to help spread your message. You have to remember that they're trying to make a connection with you and with your brand. So remember that and get to know them on a personal level too. At Hootsuite, this is our main objective that we've built around our whole advocacy program. So this is something that we have socialized across the organization. And what's really great is we have total buy-in from everyone at Hootsuite. And we know that our advocacy programs, no matter what they are, we're all on the same page. It helps to move our business forward. It helps to create third-party validity. These are all super important things that is really important for your whole team to get on board with. And then these are the programs we've actually built around advocacy. So it's not just an ambassador program. We've actually got like 5 programs going around advocacy because we've recognized that advocates are all so different depending on how they work with our business. So we work with students who are learning social media in the classroom. They're essentially the future advocates of our business. We have brand ambassadors, we have influencers, we have partners that we work with, so people like Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft. These are all people that we're working with on a day-to-day basis. And then our peeps, which are our employees. So I'm going to get into how we've been able to build out an ambassador program. So we started the ambassador program over at Hootsuite back in 2012, and this has really been the heart of Hootsuite's community. We've been running it for quite a few years now, and we've learned a lot of things along the way. But as of today, we have about 500 ambassadors in 50 different cities. And that definitely wasn't an easy task, but it's something that we were very quickly able to do at a time when we were a startup, because we had a product and service that a lot of people were like, oh my God, you're helping me in my job, in my day-to-day life. Thank you so much. You're amazing. You're awesome. And then we returned that love. We were like, you know what? That's really cool that you're finding our platform to be amazing. Let's talk more. Let's create a connection because you're going to help move our business forward. So some of the objectives of our program, and we did this before we even launched it. We said, okay, what are the things that we want to work with our ambassadors on? So we came up with, obviously, one, amplification. They're going to help spread the word anytime we have new product releases, anytime we have knowledge sharing, like Snapchat hacks, Instagram, all this stuff, because we know social moves so fast. But also giving us insight. So having ambassadors in 50 different countries is super helpful because they give us insight on how those countries are operating and using social. For example, in APAC, in Australia, they love Instagram a lot more than they love Twitter. And that's really good insight for us to know. And it's really important to know how Asia is using different platforms, not necessarily embracing Instagram, for example. So having them give us that insight on the ground is super beneficial for us because it helps us build out the proper things that we need to for those regions. And then at the end of the day, a lot of these people help in our support forum. They jump in there and they help answer questions for people that are having problems. And one thing, which is my personal favorite, is our Hoot Up events. So we've actually got Colton here in the audience, part of the community team. He runs all of our Hoot Up events, and he works with ambassadors all over the world. And he sets them up for success to basically run a kick-ass event and get these ambassadors working on good topics for their meetups, making sure they have a good panelist of people to talk, and making sure that there's really good knowledge sharing happening at these events so that it's not just a bunch of people meeting up and having some drinks, it's that there's actual knowledge sharing taking place. And then I really like this quote from one of our ambassadors because this is what really helps validate that you're actually running a good program. So it's not just about building a program, but it's also connecting people within your program with one another. And it's been really cool over the years to see all these ambassadors that have made these friendships and connections and sometimes even business partnerships. This is a quick snapshot of what we were able to achieve in 2015. Obviously, 2016 is still running, so I don't have the stats yet. But we were using Influitive for many years. So we had over 400 of them were active in our hub. We had over 375 Hoot Ups hosted, lots of social shares. But I think another really important thing is that NPS. So we make sure that we send out 2 surveys every single year just to get a pulse check on the ambassador program. Are you liking it? What don't you like about it? Is there anything we can change? Do you think that you're getting a good connection with people at Hootsuite? Do you think you're getting a good enough connection with other people in the program? So these are all questions that we ask in that survey. And then at the end of the day, too, it's really important to understand that your ambassadors are going to come from all areas of your business. And this is what's going to help your ambassador program succeed and grow with the right people. So we've found that people come from our actual current customers and clients, so our customer success team, our marketing team, all of these people. I can't tell you, there isn't a week that goes by where I don't get an email from somebody that's like, hey, I connected with this awesome customer of ours at this event. They would be a super great ambassador. They're the perfect material for your program. I'll connect you guys via email. And so there's so many ways that we get these ambassadors just through word of mouth within our company. So I can't stress how important it is to socialize your program with the rest of your company because that's going to help you grow it with the right people. That being said, It's really important to have selection criteria. When we first launched our program back in 2012, we didn't have selection criteria. It was basically, you want to be an ambassador? Awesome, come be an ambassador. And over the years, we discovered that, you know what, we should actually have some really good criteria in place. We want to now focus less on the quantity of people and more on the quality of people in our program. So we've kind of put out these things that we've learned over the years, and this is what I would recommend really for anyone building an ambassador program, that your advocates and your ambassadors should try and meet at least 75% of this. Keep in mind, not everyone is going to tick off these boxes. You know, there's going to be some people who maybe are super awesome on social, but maybe they're not so great in front of crowds and they're not a thought leader and public speaker. So we understand that, and we're not going to say no because you can't get on stage and talk about us. But just know that at the end of the day, do they meet all these requirements? And also, too, we creep people online and we see, okay, if they want to be an ambassador, do they actually use our platform? So we kind of creep them and see what they're posting their tweets and their social messages from. And if they're using our competitor, we're probably going to say no. Another thing, too, is, and this is, I think, the biggest mistake that people make with ambassador programs, is they don't grow advocacy in steps. And a lot of people start these programs, and they immediately start asking these people to share their messages and to create blogs and to create user-generated content. And that is the complete opposite of what you want to do. You want to make sure that you're building a relationship with these people. You're showing them value to being in your program. And then you can start asking for some of the things down the road. So it's really, really important to outline these benefits. So this is stuff that we made sure we had in place before we launched. And over the years, we've been able to add to this list of benefits. So not only is it great for us to connect people with one another, but what can we offer these people internally, for sure, in our organization? Can we physically give them access to beta Can we give them access to beta testings for us? So we had to work with our mobile team and work with our dev team to be like, is there something we need to do? Do they need to sign an NDA? Like, you just got to figure out all those details before you're going to launch it to them. And then another thing, too, is thought leadership and helping them grow their brand. So we get asked all the time to speak at conferences and events, and we can't always physically be there. So for us to be able to go to an ambassador and say, listen, we've been asked to speak at this event in your city. We can't make it, but we'd love to give it to you. Are you keen to do it? And we'll help set you up for success and help you build your slides. And most of the time, they're super thankful because it helps them grow their brand personally, whether they're a social media specialist or they're one of our customers, and they just want to share some cool case studies of what they've been doing. And then here's some basic journey steps that we've learned along the way. So when it starts to actually acquiring your people, make sure that you're asking yourself, do I want to concentrate on growing this program to be the biggest it's possibly going to be, or do I want to focus on quality? And I would highly recommend focusing on quality, because having a big program is not necessarily the answer. And we learned that very quickly, because the bigger you grow your program, the more resources you need in place and the more budget you need in place. For example, you want to send swag out to 500 ambassadors, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So if every single one of those people is getting a welcome kit, think about how much it's going to cost you to send them a welcome kit in the mail. If they're in Australia, if they're in New Zealand, if they're in Asia, that's going to cost your company a lot of money. So think about that too. And then when it comes to onboarding, you have to just check off some certain things. So one of the biggest things I think a lot of people forget is you need to have them agree to terms and conditions right from the forefront. Set those examples right up off top, because that's a common step that people miss. And legally, it's really important to work with your legal team on that one. Especially in our case, where we're giving them access to products before they go live, it's really important we know that they're not going to leak that information online. And then this is another really important part, checking in on them. So we make sure we have 30, 60, 90-day check-ins with all of our ambassadors. So we say, you know, if we notice this person hasn't logged into one of these platforms, we just check in on them and say, hey, we noticed you haven't been active on this particular platform. Did you have any technical problems? Is there something that we can help you with? Or are you just not liking it? And if you're not liking it, tell us why, because your feedback means a lot to us. So it's really important to do those check-ins. And then keep the engagement going. This is super, super important to keep that engagement going. So that's great. They're in your program. A lot of people just kind of step away and concentrate on their next campaign or their next thing. So it's really important to make sure that you're consistently engaging with these people. And I like to actually make sure that every single one of those people that are ambassadors or even influencers that we work with, I get to know them, not just online, but get to know them offline too. If you have an opportunity to meet up with them in real life, do it. Get to know who they are, get to know what they like doing. Maybe they like hosting events, maybe they like speaking. You'll never know that unless you actually get to know them on a personal level. And then you want to build that, harness the advocate experience. So at the end of the day, we've discovered that a lot of our customers end up becoming our ambassadors. So we find those people that are already our customers. We're listening for those conversations. We're constantly monitoring our social channels, and we're identifying who those people are. And then we help build that advocacy experience until it comes back around, where we engage them. We share their content, they share ours, and it's a very reciprocal relationship. And here's just a few quick tips if you want to actually grow your program now. So first one, listen. So like I said, you got to listen for those conversations, because there could be an ambassador right underneath you and right in front of your nose and you don't even realize it. And the next thing is you want to add value. So that's great, you've invited them to the program, or maybe you're trying to pitch them to invite them into your program. What are you going to offer them that's of value to them? Why should they join your program? What's in it for them? And then engage them. That's super, super important. Like I was saying, the engagement side of things, again, a lot of people start these programs and then they're hands off and they don't engage with them. And then at the end of the day, remember, it's a two-way street. So you need to be sharing their content just as much as you're sharing theirs. So what we like to do is when ambassadors are writing blogs, whether it's about Hootsuite or not, we make sure that we're sharing their content and retweeting their content as well. Because a lot of them are thought leaders as well in the social industry. They're writing blogs about, you know, Snapchat hacks and Instagram things and how to grow your Instagram followers. And this is all stuff we know our community is going to like. So if they're writing content that you know your community is going to get something out of, share their content. And then this is a really good maturity model that I like from Influitive. And if I can recommend where you want to aim to be, I would recommend sticking with the engaged category. So it's really important to make sure you have internal awareness, a structured community, and that there's experience and value. It's obviously nice. You want to get to optimize. That's the ultimate goal. But I would aim, honestly, just to keep to that engaged category. If you're there, it'll be a lot easier for you to move to a more optimized stage. Some of the other tools that we've used aside from Influitive is Vanilla. So this is great for knowledge sharing. So we have discussions that we have going with our ambassadors where we talk about what's happening in the social industry. Again, it changes every 5 minutes. It's super important that we're creating an environment for them to talk to each other, but also talk to us about these changes. And then we've also launched something recently called Amplify. Originally, this was created for an employee advocacy for our customers, and we looked at it and thought, why can't we use this for our ambassador program? You know, a lot of our ambassadors need to be able to share content easily from their mobile devices. So we implemented Hootsuite Amplify, which I'll talk a little bit about later and what it does, and put them into our ambassadors' hands, often before a lot of our own customers have. And then employee advocacy. This is really, really important too, because in a way, your employees are your ambassadors, and people like hearing directly from those employees. So it's important to identify, you're going to be talking to a lot of different people within your organization. So you have to make sure that you're creating a strategy and you're creating content that's going to talk to all these people, whether they're C-suite or whether they're recruiting or somewhere in the middle. You have to keep that in mind when you're building out your program. And we knew that we needed to do a few key things with our employees for our employee ambassador program. So internal communication, we want them to obviously share our content, thought leadership, you know, social shares. These are all things we knew we needed in our program. And at the end of the day, your people know your business. They're the best people to be talking on behalf of your brand. They're social. They know they know everything about your company. They know what's coming down the pipeline. They're one of the best advocates that I think this is often overlooked. A lot of people overlook their own employees as ambassadors. And then we found too, and this is how we came to building Amplify, that again, like I was showing you earlier, when we did a test where we shared something on one of our Hootsuite channels, and then we had a bunch of our employees share that same message, and we were able to get more sessions and more click-throughs by having them share the exact same thing. So we knew that this was super powerful, and that's why we built Hootsuite Amplify. So essentially what it is you as the social media manager can curate this content. You put it into Amplify. You can pick the photo. You can pick the content that you want them to share. They open up the app, and they can share it to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. You get increased impressions, and as a result, you get more leads and sales. So it's a very simple concept, but the biggest thing about it is it's mobile. It's putting sharing very easily in their hands, and mobile is super, super important, especially going into 2017. And then you're probably wondering, well, how do you get people to keep opening up the app? So we actually teamed up with our own customers and said, hey, we have this awesome app. Do you guys want to work with us on a cool initiative? And they said, actually, we have this awesome new campaign with a new video to start the hockey season. We'd love for you to share our video. We'd love for the Hootsuite employees to share our video. And they said, we'll give you some Canucks tickets to one of our hockey games. And we're like, okay, that sounds good. And we put out this ask, and we said, hey, guys, one of our customers has a new video. Can you all hop into Amplify and help share their video and help share their tweet? And in the end, we had a ton of retweets and a ton of shares on that content, and everyone that shared was entered to win Canucks tickets. And Canucks was super, super, super amazing about giving us 100 tickets, like so not what we were expecting. We were expecting like 2 tickets. But they saw huge value in this app and how it could be used and the power of it. And at the end of the day, you want to measure your success. So the really key thing here is you want to identify what your metrics are, both your business goals and then the metrics you want to measure in the end. So, is it awareness? Is it thought leadership? Is it word of mouth? What are those business goals that you're trying to obtain? And then you want to put that into your program. How can you actually execute that into your program? And then in the end, what metrics do you want to share? So some people might want to share impressions. Some people might want to do shares, traffic to their website, conversions, user-generated content. All of these things are things you need to think about. And some of the metrics that we track over at Hootsuite are shares, so through our Amplify app, user-generated content, so people that are creating blogs, tweets, any sort of social messages, and then the number of advocates we have in key markets. So there's obviously certain markets that we're looking to grow in, so we make sure that those advocates are there. And then some key takeaways. Just make sure that you're giving people ways to validate you. Listen, build, and engage, like I was saying, and enable them. Enable them with tools. Enable them with things to share and show value to them. And then again, you want to align your business goals to your advocacy goals, which eventually you're going to measure. And then the number one thing I can really recommend is make sure you have the proper resources and budget in place before you launch any sort of ambassador or advocacy program. Because at the end of the day, we have ambassadors, for example, all over the world that speak a ton of different languages. So it's important for us to have community managers in those places that know how to speak those languages and talk to them. So think about that, too, if you're thinking about going global. And that's it. So thank you.